Broncos country. Is Sean Payton tipping his hand this week at the NFL Combine with all their comments, who they're meeting with? I'm going to catch you up on all the news that I found really interesting, a lot of the insights that we got regarding the team, and of course, what their plans are going to be in free agency and the draft. Y'all let me know your thoughts. I'll kind of reveal, I guess, my opinion as we go through this news, and at the end, kind of give you my take right now on Sean Payton, George Paton overall. Like, are the Broncos setting up something here, or are they kind of playing it straight? Y'all let me know. Hey, first off, hey, shout out to Kodiak Broncos podcast. Y'all be sure to smash that like and subscribe. Says the GOAT is back after 4 long days, reminiscing of how iconic Fuddruckers was and how sad it's not around anymore. Absolutely. Yeah, guys, I've been taking a break for like the last week or so, but let's go ahead and get into it, guys. This is going to be some fun stuff. So today, first, we're going to open up with some Troy Franklin news, guys. If you missed it, Sean Payton put all the fuss to bed saying, I thought Troy Franklin had a good rookie year. Remember, guys, 4th round draft pick. He says he's in the same position as Marvin Mims, who took off in his second season. Credit to Zach Stevens for putting this out. And absolutely. Now, you guys have probably seen this chart before. Hopefully you can see it okay. But anyways, guys, this is a chart of receivers this past year against single coverage. The vertical axis is yards per route run when facing single coverage. And then the horizontal axis is separation against single coverage. Now you can see, so you don't want to be on this side when it comes to not getting separation. That is bad. Jalen Polk is over here. Who's over on the other side? Troy Franklin. He had more yards per separation than guys like Zay Flowers, Chris Olave, Mike Evans, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Luke McCaffrey, Ladd McConkey, A.J. Brown, Jamison Williams. Good Lord. That's a lot. The problem is that he's not being thrown the ball enough, or what also went with this, probably impacted this, is that his lack of deep ball tracking and not coming up with those catches downfield probably impacted this. But they can work him into like more slants. Maybe he's able to run some of those dig routes. We'll see, or deep outs. You could see him start to go up this tier right here, but this is really great to see that he was somebody that was separating really, really well. Now it's about getting him to catch the ball more, right? But I love this. And for instance, guys, Courtland Sutton's right over here. Still getting above average separation, which is great, but not by much. And Devaughn Vele right over here as well. So I think we're going to see more Vele, Franklin, and Mims involved this next year. I'll touch on Courtland Sutton here in a bit, but I thought that this piece of news was really, really interesting. Now, probably something that I'm really pumped about, more than the tight end news. We'll get to that in a second, but Sean Payton talking about Drew Sanders. And this is music to my ears. Both him and George Paton came out and said he's going to be sticking at inside linebacker, which is where we saw him this year. I guess the plan last offseason was to move him into edge, but then he tore his Achilles. And yeah, again, when we saw him back on the field, it was mainly at inside linebacker. He had a sack. I think he can be a really nice blitzer at the inside linebacker position, but I just don't think he's long enough for edge. So to me, it never made sense. What's great is that he was in recovery, rehab from that Achilles rupture. For most of the time, he was considered an edge. So hopefully this doesn't impact him too much on continuing to learn this position. But if Drew Sanders is, if he has the potential, like George Paton said, to be a starter in this league, maybe we see us draft an inside linebacker, sign another really good veteran linebacker, such as a Dre Greenlaw, maybe a Zach Bond as well. I mean, he is 28, 29 years old, so you wouldn't want to sign him to an extremely long contract. Same with Dre Greenlaw, if I remember correctly. But you want to have some insurance. Maybe Drew Sanders is like a Justin Sternad type of linebacker to where he's your third or fourth linebacker and is going to be a pro or premier special teams player, which I think he made a lot of impact plays on special teams last year after he came back. But I don't think that we should be penciling him in as a starter. But I would like to add a veteran to the room, but not maybe a veteran that is going to be there for a super long time, unless that guy is somebody like Nick Bolton, and maybe we just take a day 3 inside linebacker or something, have him and Drew Sanders compete. But I think with them talking about Drew Sanders in the way that they did, that could mean, bad news if you're Alex Singleton or Cody Barton. We'll have to see. I really love this point here from James Palmer, saying the Broncos planning to have Drew Sanders at inside linebacker is a really smart move. He has some pass rushing ability that can be utilized at all times from the inside. But what we all saw from Zach Bond in Philly, and let's be clear, doesn't always work out to that extent to where he's an all-pro. It's worth remembering that an athlete there in the middle is important. And I think Drew Sanders, he still showed that athleticism this year after he came back. That's very important. So, guys, just remember, you might be like, well, he had an Achilles tear. Well, a lot of you guys still want Dre Greenlaw. He had an Achilles tear. Let's see how he looks this summer and fall in camp. But this gives me hope that Drew Sanders can become an impact player on this team beyond special teams. I would be pretty pissed off if they were adamant that he was still an edge. To me, that would be implying that he has no future on the team. But we didn't get that. Now, regarding Colston Loveland, guys, we met with him. We, as in the Broncos, and what's great is that the Broncos met with pretty much, my favorite 5 tight ends in this year's draft: Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Gunnar Helm. Loveland and Helm are both Colorado natives. That's cool. Elijah Arroyo and Terrance Ferguson. I think it's interesting that Mason Taylor wasn't on this list. But again, this is just what's reported, and we could use a top 30 visit on one of those guys. But all these guys I would be pleased with if one of them ended up as a Bronco. I think that would be great. But Colston Loveland did have surgery on his shoulder, and it was a pretty insane AC injury. This is the one that he had where tears of the AC and CC ligaments with significant clavicle displacement that punctures the muscle above. No long-term issues, though, thank God. But he played with this all season. That's crazy. He tore that in September and played through the entire season. So hats off to him. He's tough as nails. And again, when you're coached by Harbaugh, I know you're going to be a great fit for Sean Payton. I would be thrilled to have Colston Loveland as our first-round draft pick. But like I said, I would be cool with any of those other tight ends that I just named being that guy as well, because, hey, we're also interested in running back. No doubt about it. We met with Ashton Jeanty. That needed to be something that you needed to do. I would love to see him fall to 20. I just don't think that that's likely. Mike Kliss saying the Broncos had formal visits with close to 10 running backs at the combine. Each team gets 45 formal visits, 20 minutes each. So a fair share went to running back. Wow. 10, just a little under a quarter of your visits all went to running backs. I would not be surprised, again, if the Broncos signed a guy in free agency and also drafted 2 more guys to bring into this room for competition. That's how I see the tight end room developing as well. Again, it would not shock me. I do think that while it's still up in the air, if we sign an immediate starter at the running back position in free agency, I think we're going to have to do that at the tight end position, because let's say we don't go with Colston Loveland. Are any of those guys day 1 starters? Probably not. Give me Jawan Johnson on a 3-year deal. I would love that. Or maybe a Zach Ertz. Maybe we trade for Mark Andrews. I would still be a really big fan of that. But I think this is great. Ashton Jeanty, I remember that Ollie Gordon was one of those guys as well, which is kind of fascinating to me because I think he projects to kind of be a lot like Audric Estime. Not necessarily an east-west kind of guy, kind of a north-south runner, thumper, maybe with some receiving chops. But I thought that was really, really interesting. And so, yeah, I guess the last piece that I'll get to here is what Ryan Edwards was saying is that um, regarding Daniel Jeremiah's tweet, I would be shocked if we don't see a flurry of extensions done over the next 7 to 10 days. Teams have money, space. The free agent group isn't very exciting. Good time to lock up your key young guys. Yes, Zach Allen, Nick Benito. It's going to be interesting. Do we kind of bump up Nick Benito's cap number this year if we sign him to an extension? I mean, he's only under the cap for like maybe 5 million or so right now, I think. But the Broncos, we're going to have around $50 million to spend, and a fair share of that should go to Zach Allen and Nick Benito. But guys, notice like one thing that I haven't pulled up here is now I think this isn't necessarily the wide receiver day yet, right? But I think things have been a little bit quiet on the wide receiver front, and I don't think that is because the Broncos aren't targeting wide receiver. That's just me. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out with this Cortland Sutton news because, again, going in the last year of his deal, um, Broncos can save $7 million if they cut him or trade him. Marquee Sports came out with a video this week saying, if we can get a third-round pick for him, you trade him. You do it right now. I don't want him to logjam the development of any of these guys or keeping us from going out and drafting a stud wide receiver or signing a stud wide receiver in free agency. And that's very, very interesting to think about. Today, with the news of Brandon Ayuk also being shopped, could there be some sort of trade between the Niners and Broncos to where we're getting Brandon Ayuk and the Niners are getting Cortland Sutton? I say no. I don't want either of the 49ers wide receivers right now. That's just me. But ultimately, I'm trying to think of what Sean Payton said a lot last year, and I think that he held a lot of his love for Bo Nix till after the draft, obviously. And to me, I also didn't bookmark this, but he also had a tweet coming out or had a quote that was tweeted saying, how there's plenty of running backs. You don't necessarily need to get a guy, in the first few rounds or first couple rounds. I'm paraphrasing, which is correct. In this draft, I don't think you necessarily need to do that. But I think there are some advantages with the talent that is up there, including a guy like Quinshon Judkins or Travion Henderson, those guys from Ohio State. But I digress. Sean Payton's the kind of guy that you always have to take a grain of salt with everything that he's saying. I don't know if I can necessarily get behind the idea that, even though I think it would be fun, I've talked about this before of what would happen if we just deprioritize wide receiver, right? But to me, I feel like there might be something up his sleeve with how he's talked about Troy Franklin, Devaughn Vele, and Marvin Mims. Those guys are intriguing prospects. I'm a Troy Franklin believer. If Troy Franklin is actually going to be that 1,100-yard receiver that Kodiak Broncos podcast is talking about, then maybe I'm wrong on this all along. But I just got this feeling that the Broncos, even though tight end and running back are the two hot button positions to talk about in terms of their needs when it comes to the draft, I have a feeling they could go in a direction that surprises us if there's a guy that they really love. Maybe a guy like Derrick Harmon. Maybe a guy like Walter Nolen. It was reported today that he's got some character concerns, whatever that's about. Sean Payton's been on TikTok smoking a bong before. So, we'll see. And as long as he's not touching, massage therapists, I think we should be in pretty good shape. But maybe we go D-line. Maybe we do go and get a guy like Alec Iomanner, a guy that Marquee Sports is a really big fan of from Stanford. But for me, I don't know if I can get a very clear idea of what their plans are. While some people might take Sean Payton a little bit more for his word, but to me, he's always a step ahead. He's super calculated with everything that he's saying. And again, that goes into what has been talked about this week with Javonte Williams. with George Paton, and maybe even Sean Payton said this. I'm trying to remember about how there's a possibility that he could come back. No, guys, this is all just part of wanting to talk about all of your players, whether they're current or about to be former players, very positively. You want to have a good relationship with players, their agents, all of that. There's no reason with what Javonte has done to, as much as he has tried to get back, never complained, nothing like that. He has played hurt. He has played not 100%. He has given the Broncos his all. There's no reason to come out and tank his value with what he's given to us over the last 4 years by saying, you know what, nah, not going to happen. Nah, what good does that do? Just say something nice. Say we're looking into it. It doesn't matter much, okay? But I think it's a classy way to go about things. And again, you got to read between the lines on that. Javonte Williams ain't coming back. We're bringing in people to compete with Jaleel McLaughlin, with Audric Estime. And I think those guys should be ready to compete for their roster spots. I don't think either of their roster spots are guaranteed coming into this year. But that's kind of how I see the first few days of this combine going, where, yes, we know the Broncos are very interested in running back and tight end, but I don't necessarily think that means they're going to use those premier picks on those positions. So, yeah. But anyways, I'll get to a few of your comments. Let me get to, man, everybody's in here. LTB Muse, what's going on? Troy Franklin propaganda. Hey, I love it. Seeing that chart with his separation really makes me excited about what can happen in a year or two. But regarding Cortland Sutton, guys, I feel like I'm flip-flopping a little bit, but let's say you don't want to commit to Cortland Sutton long term. I think we just have him play out his deal with where he's at right now. He's under contract. His cap number is $19.7 million or something like that, which we owe him less cash than that, but it's not bad. Like I think that's a pretty fair cap number for where he's at right now. And maybe that's just the plan. We extend Zach Allen, get his number down a little bit. We let Alex Singleton go, see if he wants to come back on like a vet min or maybe something a little bit higher than that. And we let go of PJ Locke. And yeah, then we're cooking with like $50 million. Add another 3 on there if we want to cut Damari Mathis, because I think that he's a little bit expensive at $3 million or $3.5 million for a guy that's probably your cornerback 4 or 5 at the best. So yeah, we're gonna have money to spend, and yeah. Do we want to spend that on Chris Godwin, something like that? And man, I don't know about that. I think we just have Cortland Sutton play out this year. That's where I'm at right now. I know we're screaming tight end, but if this is a copycat league, I have a hunch we're going defensive line in the first round. I think you can get a tight end later. Yes, I think you can as well. And just like, again, Cecil and Mace were saying earlier today, which, by the way, man, it was tough to see my guy Cease. I love Cease, man, but he got destroyed for that Rob Gronkowski. Man, he needs to cut off whatever sources were telling him that, man, because everybody, all the big boy reporters came after Cease with that one. That was tough to watch. It would have been fun, but a washed Gronk is better than everybody we got on the roster right now. But yeah, a lot of these tight ends, they might be a year or two away. If they're not Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren, you're going to have to sign a veteran or trade for one anyways. So, yeah, theoretically, more impact players you can get in rounds 1 and 2 and 3 are probably defensive line, linebacker, running back. Then you could go for a guy like Terrance Ferguson. You get a guy like Arande Gadsden. I don't know. I have a feeling that we might pass on tight end in the first round, but how about Kenneth Grant? Yeah, great idea out of Michigan. Any Michigan guy that we can draft in the first round, I would be happy with. that would be great. Man, honestly, I forgot is Jonas Griffith still on the roster? Man. Nah, man, that ain't gonna happen. You need to give up hope right now. I'm sorry, Jonas Griffith. But man, if I forget that you're on the roster, it's not a good look. A guy that I think we could look into day 3, Hunter Wohler, safety out of Wisconsin. He was recruited and coached by Jim Leonard over at Wisconsin. I think he could transition to linebacker. And I think he could be pretty good at it. But maybe he's a little too stiff. I don't know. Y'all real amateur scouts, let me know. D-Rock wants Tez and Ferguson for Nix. Give me Ferguson. I still don't know how I feel about Tez. Can we get Tim Tebow out of retirement? Hey, he could play tight end. How about that? And Blake Watson, man, I loved Blake Watson. I wanted to see more Blake Watson. This guy was more dynamic than all the other running backs we had on the roster last year. What the heck? What the heck? And it was such a shame because he had that really great pass or run or catch or run, I forget, and then got concussed on the first drive of the game. Marky Sports is saying Emeka Egbuka is right now better than Cortland Sutton. Wow. Hashtag tell me why I'm wrong. Okay. Well, if we were to cut or trade Cortland Sutton, let's say we trade him for some sort of pick and we draft Emeka Egbuka in the first round. Number one, that would be awesome. That would free up another $7 million and give us another draft pick or two, right? If you know you can get him at 20 and he's worth that, maybe you roll with that. Troy Franklin has too much of a good work ethic to be bad. Thank you. Thank you. That's why he's going for 1,100 yards this year, baby. What if Sutton holds out? That's good. That's not good. I meant in any way. Yeah, Paul. Maybe he does a little bit of a holdout, but I think it goes similarly to how it went last year. Again, you don't want to sit out in the last year of your contract, pay all those fines, and then you're probably not even wanted. Look at what happened with Hassan Reddick type of thing. You don't want to go down that. Eventually, Cortland will play, and if he's got to hold out because he doesn't want to risk injury, I understand it. Man, Kodiak, how funny would it have been if George Paton and Sean Payton went to the podium and was like, Javonte is trash like Dennis Allen did with Kendre Miller on the Saints last year? Yes, it doesn't help anybody. It does not help anybody. And when players in free agency are looking at who they're going to play for, those things they pay attention to, agents pay attention to. Guys, sometimes you just want to say the polite thing, even if you don't mean it. It's kind of like those exit interviews with places. If you're leaving a work environment that you just hated, but they want to do the exit interview, just they say they want to hear things, but it's not necessarily good. You just say the polite thing and you just move on. There's no good to bring up any bad stuff in the past. There's just no reason. I just don't think we can get a second for Cortland Sutton. I imagine that would probably be a day 3 pick. Jonas was cut. Man. Yeah, having Griffith this year would be great. But, man, this makes me excited for Drew Sanders. I have hope for him. Right now, I'm going to take a look here at my way too early 53-man roster, right? I have some different scenarios here, but I'll just go through this right now. And maybe this is kind of what the linebacker room looks like right here, where maybe you're signing Nick Bolton. You're bringing back Drew Sanders and Lavelle Bailey. And, well, in this scenario, I had us bring back Cody Barton. but maybe we draft like a Schlesinger or a Lindenberg from Minnesota, right? Or we bring back Alex Singleton. You kind of have another guy that can kind of compete with Drew Sanders right there for an immediate starting position. And we're going to have injuries, so it's important. But I mean, I'm expecting a nice jump this year from Lavelle Bailey. And why shouldn't we expect that from Drew Sanders as well, since he's healthy and he knows what position he's playing? Now, this was like with this draft of getting a guy like Kevin Grant, Elijah Arroyo, Devin Neal, in the first 3 rounds, which could be fun. But it wouldn't shock me if we started camp with like 5-6 running backs. And I think Estime, he's the size of a linebacker, essentially. He's going to be a good special teams guy. I think we will keep 4 running backs on the active roster. So that would be Estime, maybe a guy like Woody Marks or Bashul Tutton from Virginia Tech, or a Trevor Etienne are drafted to compete with Jaleel McLaughlin on day 3 for one of their spots. We're signing a guy maybe like Rico Dowdle, Najee Harris, something like that, and also drafting a guy like Devin Neal. I think could be a lot of fun. But again, there's like 15 running backs that would be really cool with us drafting. No doubt about it. Option 3 in your spreadsheet is ideal, except I'm fully on the Najee train. Yeah, I love the fact that you're on the Najee train, Kodiak. Let me get back to like my other options that I had here. This one was a different one here where we draft like Derrick Harmon in the first, then we go with a Schlesinger out of UCLA linebacker, really like him. Mason Taylor in the third, Rashard Smith. Then we go with some of our guys in the trenches, Hunter Wooler there. That could be a lot of fun. But yeah, we could this would have a room of like 5 guys, with maybe Singleton ends up being cut, kind of like Tim Patrick was anyways after he restructured or took a pay cut. But I think that could be a really fun room. But like I really would. I know that we talk about adding 2 running backs or 2 tight ends. I'm cool with that in the draft. But I think I would be most pleased with adding 2 defensive linemen in this year's draft. Derrick Harmon, Ty Robinson, I think, if I remember correctly, had a really good day at the combine today, which in terms of his measurements and all that sorts of stuff. So that's awesome. I think I might have had one in here with Najee. Let me take a look here, and then I'm going to wrap this thing up. No, I guess I just replaced them all with Rico Dowdle. But let's say we sign Najee Harris. Whoops. There we go. Looks great. Yeah, we get a guy like Tyler Conklin or draft Colston Loveland. Andrew Makuba, I finally pronounced his name correctly. That would be awesome. But yeah, we can draft inside linebackers day 3. Jamari Caldwell is another nose tackle that I think we could get in the 3rd or 4th round from Oregon that I think would be a good replacement for DJ Jones. So we'll just have to see. We will have to see, guys, what we do. But at the end of the day, I ain't trusting anything Sean Payton's saying right now. None at all. The actions speak louder than words. And his track record, I think, speaks for itself in the fact, like, man, he tries to mislead people all the time. A Najee Henderson backfield would be incredible. First round, blah. Who are some targets in the 2nd round? I love it. Well, Schlesinger. I'm always forgetting his first name, linebacker. Chris Paul, I guess, has been another linebacker from Oklahoma that could go in the 2nd round, but he measured with like T-Rex arms today, so that's probably not happening. Again, Elijah Arroyo in the 2nd round, Quinshawn Judkins, Devin Neal could go in the 2nd round, Travion Henderson could go in the 2nd round, Caleb Johnson, Alec Manor, Jaden Higgins from Iowa State, wide receiver, I think could be very, very interesting. We're talking about some other defensive line guys off the top of my head, maybe like an Alfred Collins from Texas. He could be a defensive tackle guy we draft in the second round. Who else? Safety. I'm not exactly sure who would be there. Maybe Nick Emenwari. Again, PFF has him as a third rounder, but then on other mock drafts, I see him as a see him there as a first rounder. So, split the difference. Maybe he's available there in the second round for us. That could be pretty exciting. I don't think we go offensive line in the first couple days. That really wouldn't make much sense. I heard the Cowboys might keep Rico, helping us get Jeanty in the draft. That would be music to my ears. Yeah, Rico Dowdle's cool, but you know who's cooler? Ashton Jeanty. Yeah, no doubt about it. How about Najee Harris with Ashton Jeanty? I think that would be great. Alfred Collins, man, fanatic Dak in here saying he's an absolute tank. Yeah. But guys, honestly, if let's just say, hey, we're not going to pick Walter Nolen because of the character concerns. Okay. We're okay risking Colston Loveland to the Chargers. Maybe we can find a trade partner and trade back. And that would be really, really nice to get another, late second or third round pick in this year's draft. And if we can still get a guy like Derrick Harmon with our first round pick, or like we brought up, maybe a first round wide receiver, I think that's something to consider. I even brought the idea up about, hey, the Ravens have 12 draft picks in this year's draft. I think it's 12. They have a lot. I think there were some compensatory picks, but I think they're at 27. So, hey, what if they were to trade up to 20 to get somebody that they really, really want, and we take on Mark Andrews? I think he would cost us around 10, 12 million, in cap space. They offload that. That would have to be done probably prior to free agency or at some point during free agency. And so that might be tough. And maybe in order to do that, maybe we could attach, some day 3 picks from Baltimore to make that happen. If they want to unload that contract and still move up, might be a little bit pricey for them, but they might cut Mark Andrews. I don't know. I think that could be really fun. Man, so they're saying Sutton to the Steelers again? Sure. For what? Yeah. For what? Could be interesting. Fanatic Dak saying we are going to lose some kind of talent to the Chargers. Who can you live with losing? Hampton could be a Bronco in the first. Yeah, I just feel like there's a big margin between Jeanty and Hampton. I'm just not on the Hampton trade. Again, I swear to God, I'm not helmet scouting, but I just don't know if he's the type of style running back that I want to spend pick 20 on, something like that. But you're right. Let's say we pick Colston Loveland. The Chargers are going to get a sick defensive lineman. So maybe you just don't even worry about that. But it's about time we had a tight end in the AFC West that other teams needed to fear on the Denver Broncos. It's been a long time. Everybody else has got a great tight end throughout most of my lifetime, in the AFC West. It's about time we get somebody. But it doesn't necessarily need to come in the first round. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Fanatic Dak, this is probably a take that's not very popular, but I still got Caleb Johnson as my RB2 because I just feel like he's that full-time workhorse guy that you could have. Travion Henderson is right there too, I guess, but maybe Travion Henderson's really this year's Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't know. And Trey Harris is another guy in the second round at the wide receiver position that, could be drafted here as well. I don't know. I'm a little less bullish on Trey Harris than some of the other guys in the draft or Broncos community. We'll have to see. But yeah, he definitely could be an option for us there. And again, he's picked in the second round by the Broncos, obviously they're guys that are excited about Trey Harris. So, all right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for joining the show. Be sure to smash that like and subscribe. I'll be back again soon. Go Broncos.